Hello and welcome to episode 22 of the Critical Twits podcast. Today we're going to continue with the second part of our Malifaux Shifting Loyalties campaign experience. So, welcome to episode 22 of the Critical Twits gaming podcast. I'm Brian.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Colin.
And we're going to be continuing with our discussion of our Malifaux Shifting Loyalties campaign. We've just started round 2.
Yes.
And in honour of such lofty achievements, we've got a couple of guests back with us.
Yay.
Yes. My name's Joe.
And I'm still Rob.
Still?
Still. Yes.
He's not moving! Just as a quick recap for those not in the know, Malifaux Shifting Loyalties is a campaign system for the war game, or skirmish game, I suppose. Malifaux, where you pick a small band of warriors, do battle, and people gather experience, people gather new equipment, and you have a sort of narrative tying everything together. And also, if you're Rob, your models get injuries.
And die horribly.
Yes.
Yeah, so... Very quickly then, what have we been up to over the last month? Have we been enjoying ourselves in the campaign? If you all say no, then we'll just turn this off and not do it.
No.
One for no.
No, I've been enjoying this more than I had when I first started playing Malifaux. I find this better, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it you think is better?
It's allowing me to get a handle on my crew in a smaller number and build up.
Yep.
And I like... kind of developing the character of each of the little models by what they do in the campaign, things like that, and because of the balancing systems of things, I feel like I'm always going to be gaining something out of it, even when I do really, really poo and run away.
The campaign's going quite well, I think. I would say that because I'm winning lots. But it's fun. It's upsetting Colin, who I get to play next, which should be good.
Destroy him. You need to destroy him.
I'm never coming back. It'll be funny.
And it's implying I can't play any more games because
until you play me.
Okay.
So I'm just not coming back. You're
Rob,
all welcome.
Just very briefly, how are you finding the campaign so far?
I'm enjoying it, which is weird, but I play a lot of narrative games with linked stories, and I do like it more in the hardship, which is just as well, because I've got all the injuries and all the death.
Yes. Are you having a bit of a masochistic
I like
approach?
the persevering through and the rise, and so you have to have the bad bit in order to soldier on through.
Yeah, I think just before we get to talk about what our factions have got up to and what we've been doing, and Colin's going to start this because he didn't really get to talk last time. In fact, he didn't get to talk at all. We are missing James. Unfortunately, James has fallen over in his own dungeon and can't get up. So we've all played several games now.
Yes.
Yep. Just to get a feel for our crews, our sort of different models are coming together, our sort of different tactics are hopefully crystallising. I've seen you guys pulling off some interesting moves that I think this time last month when we started this you wouldn't have been doing.
No, not in the slightest.
And it's quite interesting to see people getting better and developing, mostly. Sorry, Rob. I'm such a horrible person.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you're not giving Rob credit where it's true. We're
Surviving.
learning the same way as I'm doing. We're both learning tactics. It's unfortunately we're catching up with people who
Have played
know the
more.
system more.
Yeah.
I played exactly the same amount of time as you.
Shush.
Yeah. So, Colin,
Yes.
because you didn't participate last time,
I did not.
you have gone with a Resurrectionist crew.
I have.
Would you like to talk us through your choices and bring us up to date on the story of your crew so far?
Yes. I chose Sebastian as my leader for no other reason than power gaming. Sorry, world. He causes additional damage when you take poison, and you also take poison damage more frequently, which is hilarious because you can basically just build a line and just watch the enemy kill themselves rather than actually having to do it yourself.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, I need to be. I flip rubbish cards.
Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself.
I sometimes flip rubbish cards. I flip rubbish cards when I need them. Occasionally. When I'm not playing Brian.
Thrilling.
Or me.
Or Rob. Okay, that's all a lie. I'm lazy and don't want to flip cards. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah, I've gone with a pretty much straight out of McMorning's battle box. Actually,
Yep.
if you look at his battle box contents, I've taken pretty much everything except for McMorning himself, and that's it. Oh, and of course McMorning's peon. I don't get that, which still comes in 4 pieces, and I will complain to the internet about that until I die.
Every time you tell that story about the Chihuahua that came in a million parts, it gets smaller and smaller.
It does.
It's like the reverse of a shaggy dog story. It's like a hairless dog story in more ways than one.
Yes.
So, how have your games gone so far?
Well, I have 2 victories and 1 loss. I played my first game against you, Brian, to
Yes,
try
you
and
did.
catch up.
Yeah, because everyone else had played a bit, so we thought we'd get a game
We
in.
get a game in. It wasn't an awful loss. I think you doubled my points, but it was closer than it looked. At one point, you got very lucky with a fraction of an inch movement that killed me, as I recall.
Yes, yeah, I was
Yeah.
just in and able to finish off
Yeah.
was it Sebastian with
Yeah.
for an assassinate, which got me 3 points, and I beat you 8-5.
Yeah.
There we go.
Second game, however, I've learned from that. Absolutely not. I still just throw Sebastian straight at the enemy and hope for the best. However, this time it worked when I played Aaron. That went much better. I did lose a model, but he wasn't injured. So that's all good. No injuries from me.
Yeah.
And I won that game.
Yeah.
Did I win? What did I get? It was 8-4.
Yeah, 8-4.
8-4. And then...
Isn't that when you acquired a Gatling gun?
Yes, and also, yes, I managed to actually buy something. And I managed to get a really nice Gatling gun to give my hunchback leader, who's only height 1 and can't see anything.
Yeah, that was actually a second round game, wasn't it?
Yes, that was today's round.
Because in the first round we had everyone returning from a job laden down with loot.
Yep.
Yes.
This time we had an outbreak of carnivorous plants.
And so we've been paid to be gardeners.
Yes.
Yes.
So Malifaux, the Alan Titchmarsh edition. That's what I'm thinking of this week.
Which I can't think of any better that would improve that show if they'd had Gatling guns, flamethrowers, and
Yeah, good point, yeah.
yeah.
Piece of colour text here. For Malifaux's carnivorous plants. Documentation of the flora of Malifaux slowed down significantly until botanists began arming themselves.
I thought that these carnivorous plants were going to be really scary, especially if you need fully armoured battle gardeners to deal with them,
They did sound scary because they can do up to 7 points of damage,
which is enough to kill any minion in the game.
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
and considering we're taking injuries afterwards,
Yes.
and possibly death, I didn't really like the idea of going, one of my men has just been eaten by a plant.
Yeah.
Well, that's embarrassing.
Their ability to pull you in as well.
That was
The
frightening.
initial thought was, if you go anywhere, you go within 3
3
inches,
inches.
It's
of
going to
this
drag you over and
50 mil base. Yeah, it's gonna pull you in unless you succeed a quite difficult walk duel.
Yeah.
And eat you. But in actual fact, we found that they only start nibbling at your ankles if you walk on them, not near them.
Yes.
So are they tiny carnivorous plants?
Well,
It's like
They can reach
things.
3 inches, which
Yeah,
is
they just
a lot.
don't.
But it's more than a man is tall in
But they
Malifaux land.
are they are only height 0. So yes, they are tiny. They've just got long vines,
magnetic, maybe the vines. Yeah.
yes.
I would have liked it if they pulled you into the middle.
Yeah, would have made
Yeah.
sense.
Yes, so that you immediately will be taking damage
Yeah,
next turn.
you have to place them within 6 inches of the centre line.
Yeah.
Which means you need to know where the centre line is, and in quite a lot of the setups, you get a choice of corners or similar. So we were picking our deployment zone, so we knew where we would start beforehand. So we were placing them in really easy places.
Yeah.
Because if you kill them, and all you need to do is hit them,
Yeah.
if you kill the plants, you get 3 scrip, which is quite a bit of
Cash.
money in Malifaux land. I shouldn't really call it Malifaux land.
It's just Malifaux, isn't it?
Malifaux.
Yeah.
What I would quite like is if we were able to put it, say, within 6 inches of somewhere, like the centre of the board or similar, so that we couldn't just place them near us, walk over to them in the first
And
turn,
score
stab
easy
them,
points.
score some easy money. It would be
Yeah.
nice to be able
which
to
is
put them
what
down.
we ended up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, plonk them down more strategically before we know exactly where we're coming, but it doesn't really work. So the event's been a bit disappointing this week. It's
Yeah.
not really had much of an effect.
I think it's badly written. That's
Yeah.
what it boils down to. It should be
Pull you in the middle.
pulling you in, or if you're in base contact,
Yeah,
it
it's
does
still
damage.
getting
It's
Yeah.
enough to actually make it a hazard. So those 3 script are a gamble.
Yeah.
Because it
Yes,
could go hideously wrong.
Yeah, if it flips-
especially if your opponent, who can cheat the damage
Yeah.
using their cards, has the opportunity to royally screw you over.
It would kill anything.
In
I've
the
only got
game,
2
almost.
models that would survive a severe damage flip from it.
I've got
I got one.
one.
Yeah.
My leader.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think that as well, if they'd become that threat to a crew, we might not have used them quite so much as free money.
We'd have actually
Yeah.
maybe put them in front of the others and gone, well, they can try and kill it, but they might die.
Especially if they've put theirs near them, and you think, oh, if I put this one here as well, then it's a massive bit of board that they've either got to deal with quickly
Yeah.
on risking taking damage,
Yeah.
or they've got to navigate around, which can give you a massive advantage in such a scenario and strategy scheme heavy game.
Yeah, because if you don't get past it, it can pull you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that walk duel is very tough. I mean, you can cheat it, but
It's
a lot of Malifaux is getting your opponent's good cards out their hands so that when you punch them in the face, they can't cheat fate and get out of the way.
On average, to pass that walk duel, you're needing an 8+.
An average duel will be 9.
Yeah,
Because
so-
the average walk is 5 and it's a 14 that you need.
So dragging a 9 or more out of your opponents is
Nasty.
quite good early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, cards that only go up to 14.
yeah.
So, yeah, that's been slightly disappointing, but otherwise I have enjoyed my round 2 game.
Okay, so round 2's been quite fun. I haven't unfortunately won anything.
No, you've
This one.
played a couple games.
Two games, one against Colin, one against Joe. I've bought a new Doom model at the start, as you do at the start of each new round.
Yes, everyone's bought
introduced
something
a new Torakage, Raphael,
Oh.
who seems to have taught my other Torakages, including the crippled one, Michelangelo. Yes, they are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How to actually move and run around. It's like they've looked down and gone, oh, I've got legs. And so they've spent the games running around the board and dropping ski markers and actually scoring points, which has been nice because I've actually managed to get some money from stuff like that.
Yeah.
Toto still seems to be just charging in the middle and smashing things in the face because he's not very clever.
I do think of him as being a giant potato.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's lumbering
A
and...
giant height 3 potato.
See, I had some really clever tactics. Well, they had some very clever tactics set aside for the match I had with Colin. I knew he was a bit slower, so he couldn't thing. So I was going to pincer around him, run around the sides, drop loads of ski markers because I was like centre line and things like that.
Yep.
Distract him a little bit with Toto in the middle, and use my Thunder Archer Cupid because everybody's learned to love that to pick off some of his models as they came into the middle. Fortunately, my Thunder Archer got massively distracted by a small smelly puppy and got excited.
Yes.
Forgot to actually fire an arrow the entire game.
What?
Yeah,
It's because you only had a quarterstaff,
yeah,
you and your substitute models.
I'm actually, that's the first one I'm building up, so I don't have to use that anymore.
Yes.
I didn't have my Oiran Yoko in this match because Colin's not got as big a army as I have points wise, so I had to sacrifice some things.
Yoko. Why is she called Yoko?
Because she lures things away from stuff.
I quite like that.
Yeah, and I fought a Toto with his healing ability, and I've bought some smoke and shadows ability, so he can kind of drop smoke bombs down in front of him. People can't get through, and then disappear off somewhere.
Yeah.
So I can get him in the middle, distract Colin, and then vanish off into the distance. Unfortunately, Colin's army's very good at making everything stand still and get paralysed constantly,
I'm sorry.
and he died from a slow, crippling, poisonous death.
Yes.
Yeah, it was lovely, pleasant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Died, come on, no, was finished off.
Oh no, he's still alive. He didn't get finished off.
Exactly, thank you, not dead.
Okay.
I have that.
He had a bit
dubious
of a
honour.
bad tummy for a little while and had to go off the battlefield and have a big poo. Well, that's what he looks like he's doing, to be fair.
Yeah,
she said.
That's how you glued him down.
And then I had my second battle against Joe. And again, my Torakage's pulled off some really clever moves, protected my Thunder Archer off in the corner while he was about to absolutely obliterate them. Stood in front and protected the Thunder Archer so they could fire over the shoulders. That looked really cool in a Hong Kong action movie. And then I just floundered and everything else and got absolutely smashed into the floor. And I did manage to set off some explosives.
Yes.
Yeah, I managed to trick. Well, not trick. I managed to put them in front of him enough for Joe to get exploded slightly in the face with no damage. 'Cause
Yeah.
explosives make so much sense.
Sorry. Yeah, that was a very sneaky move that I wasn't actually anticipating. And yeah, some of the moves you managed to pull off with the Sora Cargo to get in the way and block a couple of my attacks from my leader was brilliant.
Do you know what I said to that, Joe? Get good. And
He
this
did,
wouldn't have
unfortunately. One of his models did a very nasty thing to a Toto, which I'm still really salty about.
Yeah.
What happened, Howard Langston has the decapitate trigger, allowing him to take advantage of people that have not many cards and not many soul stones.
Cheap.
And managed to do some damage early with his Gatling gun. I was feeling quite good about that.
So you got him over halfway down,
Yeah, he then hid round a corner and pretty much healed himself to full.
Yeah.
While
Toto used tactics.
while claiming some objectives, and then I took an advantage of an opening, ran round the corner and cut his head off.
Yeah, with one single hit.
Yeah.
I was back at full health. And he just popped his head straight off. And yeah, that felt really, really unfair. Really
Yes,
unfair.
it can.
Brian's not the person to talk to because I know he's got 2 executioners in the guild that do exactly the same thing.
Oh,
Yes.
goody.
So I know what his model does. Then again, I've read the rule book, so I knew what it did anyway.
Is this, we're getting back to that, if you all bought a rule book, you know what you were doing.
Yes.
No.
That's racist.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I spend money, I should know all the rules.
Exactly.
You're all playing my game.
Racism.
As Colin said, I think it just comes down to get good.
But no, it's fair play. I should have paid more attention to things like that and kept extra cards in my hand and some soul stones to one side. It felt cheap at the time because I was frustrated that it had gone that quickly.
Yes, yeah. It isn't. He's your best model,
Yeah.
and you lost him instantly. And Joe also got lots of victory points for doing so.
Yes. I also completely messed up. I was supposed to be. I took bodyguard as one of the schemes.
Yeah.
To protect it, I forgot to read it's non-leader henchman.
Yeah.
Or thing, and took it on Ototo, and then couldn't score any points from it.
Yeah.
Like a dickhead.
So it was a 6-point swing because you lost all of your bodyguard potential points, and I gained the assassination points.
Yes. And as the games are out of 10
Yes, that's
maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I muffed that up. But I know why I muffed that up. So it's not like it was before.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just too much. I still felt a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But at the same point, it's like, actually, I can see why I should have studied this a bit more, kind of thing. So yeah.
Do you know what does help with the it's too much, which I was very early on experiencing, not in this game because
Not buying a rule book so you don't know what the rules are that you're not using.
no, not downloading the Into the Breach app, which gives you all of the scenarios, generates them for you, and then you can just click on them and it gives all the descriptions. So there's no need to go, right, Brian's told me these 4, I've written down 2, I don't remember what the other 2 are, I have no idea what's fucking going on, I'm just going to flip... dead. It's nice to be able to go, right...
It is
what
nice
am
to have
doing?
access to them. I bought the cards originally.
Yes.
Which now seem like a complete and utter waste of time because
Yeah.
the app surpasses that. It's much more easy to use. So that's a great thing to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, if we're plugging the app a little bit, I really like the crew builder in it as well.
Yeah.
I will admit it's not designed to work for the campaign because you have to have a master in there.
Yeah.
But you can work around that, and actually it's really good. It knows its points limits. It knows what upgrades different units can have. So if you're a bit unsure and wanting to put together a quick force or a quick crew, even you can use it really well to figure out what you can fit in and what you can't.
Yeah.
So,
That's quite nice.
Yeah.
Particularly while Weird, who make Malifaux, still haven't got their crew builder back working on their website.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've had to go earlier this week, having a wonder about what else I could get later on.
I mean, while we're discussing these kind of things as well, another thing that Weird have done that I actually really like is their. I don't know how many people have used. I don't think any of us have used Vassal to play games.
No.
Do anyone know what Vassal is?
Not a clue.
I do, but our dear
Eliminate
listeners...
us, please.
It's an online system. That takes plugins for different game systems. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to play miniatures games online against people.
Okay.
So you get your top-down view, you have your units, it has these things built in, and Weird on their own website have a link to the Vassal module. So
that's
you can
cool.
actually they're rather than some people that get very no, this is our game and our rules,
Yeah.
you can't have our stuff. They've gone, no, look here, play online. You know. Because, to be fair, anyone that does play it will realise it's an amazing game and actually want to get involved because the models are beautiful.
Yeah.
There are games that I like the look of, Infinity looks like it's got a really nice rule set, actually.
Yeah.
Because I know James has been on about recently, but I can't stand the models, and I just have no interest in buying them. Even though I'm a gamer, I'm not much of the collector, modeler, painter side of things.
Yes, Vassal does look quite interesting.
Yeah.
Especially for people who find their time is limited.
And money for limited as well. You want to test something to make sure you're actually going to enjoy it before you put down a lot of money.
Yeah, actually putting things in and having a play around with them in there. And also for people that may be a bit more isolated.
Yeah.
I know we've all seen at various points gaming groups sort of falling apart as people get older.
Yeah.
Us being sort of
Sad, lonely children.
We're not sad, lonely adults is what I was going to say. Quite often, real life jobs, kids, ninjas with sticks, all get in the way.
You do get ninjas in the way a lot in the world, I find.
Yeah, well,
I just don't see them.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that goes quite nicely. Aaron's mentioned a bit about his game against Joe.
Yep.
I played 2 games this week as well. I played Brian first, and that game went quite well for me. I decided actually, shall I talk about my second game of week 1 first?
If you like,
It's quite a quick one. I played against James. I took advantage of having a hill quite close to the middle of the board and hiding behind and or on it, and gunned him down with my newly acquired Gatling gun.
Yeah.
Which
As he obligingly ran towards you in single file from the looks of it.
a little bit. He didn't make much use of cover, unfortunately, and so the superior range game that the Arcanists have, or at least the crew I've taken, have brought to the table, played out really nicely there. For the second week, I've bought myself a silent one, which adds another little bit of range damage in the way of spells. She's a bit slow, but she does have a heal, which I found is quite useful.
Yeah.
It's kept your boss alive several times in the games I've seen.
It was huge in the game against Aaron. So my third game against Brian made a couple of mistakes, which did cause problems, and it may have been a completely different game if not. But I think the biggest things were you made a couple of mistakes with Hannah, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah.
And we learnt that Joss is hard.
Yeah, he's far too hard because I actually battered him repeatedly and he just wouldn't die.
I can attest to that with my Archer probably have obliterated most other things on the table on most other games.
And that was... the game against Brian was a very, very close one.
If we had finished the game at turn 5, which is when the game could end for the first time...
It would have been a draw.
It would have been a draw, even though I'd made lots of mistakes. What I had managed to do is I seized the early advantage.
Yes.
I planned to sacrifice my leader in exchange for 3 victory points.
Okay.
I messed up what I was doing and only got 2 victory points and lost my leader, who is my most powerful model. So from that point, I realised I should have used soul stones, which are sort of part of the currency. They're what you buy your crew with, and you have them, you keep them. You can use them in the game for various effects, and one of those is to stop you being damaged.
Yeah.
And I should have I completely forgot about them and just let her get battered. I mean, I probably still would have died because you had quite a lot of damage output round her.
But it would have taken me another turn. I wouldn't have got some damage onto another model.
Onto the librarian that died in the second turn after wouldn't have also been shot. That it would have been a very different game.
But it was good. It was close.
Yes,
It went from being a draw because you took the early initiative onto being a win for me. And then the fourth game I've played now was against Aaron. We once again learnt that Joss is hard.
Yes.
I sent him off on the side to deal with your Archer and one of your
Torakage, I think. Leonardo, I think.
And then another one jumped in as well, as using its crazy magic.
Oh, yeah.
And he murdered that as well.
Yeah.
And Decapitate is a very, very mean ability. That felt like a much closer game than it actually ended up being.
Yeah.
Because it ended 10-4 victory point wise to me. But I didn't feel that I was in much of a strong position until I got off that cheeky Decapitate, and then it kind of all just
fell apart.
Yeah. But so I've had a fairly good week. I've bought myself for completing my bounty. I got an extra item, which is just going to upset people because it makes Joss a little bit more survivable.
Is it a little chocolate bar?
It is not. It's the tools of the trade. which means at the end of his activation, any constructs within 3 inches or within 2 inches heal 3 damage.
What?
Joss and Howard are both constructs.
And he's within 3 inches of himself.
So at the end of every one of his turns, he's going to be healing 3.
No.
I've only just broken this to everybody, so they are looking rather disappointed.
Joss also has an ability where he can activate twice in a turn.
Yeah.
If you reduce him to 1 wound, the final blow to him will only reduce him to 1 wound. You can't take him from 2 or more wounds to 0.
Unless some things can ignore.
Some things can ignore hard to kill, but if that happens and he stays on, he goes down to 1 wound. Even if he's then subsequently healed, he gains reactivate, so he can have another go.
So you could knock him down to 1 wound. He would then activate, hit you, heal 3 points. Then at the end of the turn, activate again, hit you again, and then heal again.
Heal 3 points.
Yeah. So he's going to be something that we need to gang up on and kill everybody. Yes. Burn it with fire.
And Howard also got hard to wound as a skill, just to try and keep him alive.
How do you practice being hard to wound? Because a skill is something you practice. Do you punch yourself in the face?
He takes a fair bit of eating. He got fairly battered in the game against you. I could have
killed him.
Yeah, if he'd have focused a little bit more, he'd have died.
If I'd have been, I got annoyed. And maybe threw my cards across the room.
You didn't throw them across the room, you threw them on the floor next to you.
Yes, yeah, like a man.
Yes.
With bad aim.
Yes, yeah, I was aiming for across the room and dropped them. It was doubly upsetting because I bought a new set of cards, the Bad Ink cards, in the sale.
That are very, very nice.
Yeah, they're nice, they're sort of tattoo art. Colin doesn't like them, but...
they're not bad, but
you could have done better.
I don't think they're any better than any other deck I've seen.
Colin is wearing the most disgusting shirt I've seen since the 80s today.
In my defence, and thank God people can't see it because it is bloody hideous, I had no running water this morning.
And so in protest, Colin has worn a terrible shirt.
From comedy to tragedy, as my Neverborn utterly failed in that first round challenge of eating Joe's enforcers and growing into huge great monsters.
Can I just cast, because we're talking comedy and tragedy, Joe, you're currently the only person who's unbeaten.
Yes.
Like a still whole egg. Rob,
I am the Scotland of Malifaux. In almost any sport.
How many games have you won?
How many have I played?
4.
I've played 5. No, no, you're right, 4. I've played 4. I have lost 4.
Thank you for making me look ever so slightly better, Rob.
Yes, cheers for that.
The things I do for friendship. People to populate my man cave, which is as close as I get. But no, the one of the beautiful things of Malifaux is how different units, different models synergise, combine and play off of each other. If only I'd remembered that when I went, no, I'll swarm them because lots of models is the way to go. I promptly grabbed 4 cheap little Terratots, and frankly, I needed better modifiers given the way I draw cards.
Yeah.
Oh, your card drawing is bloody awful. It's one
Not
of
when
the
I
worst
cut
I've
your
seen.
deck.
No, that's true. Yeah, when you cut my deck, it's amazing, but...
Yes. I mean, I look around and watch you guys play games, and the Red Joker often turns up.
It's turned
2,
up at
maybe
least
3 turns
Yeah.
out of 5. Or 5, 6 is their average for us.
Joe never gets it, but he gets all the 12s or 13s.
Yeah, but he just gets 13s all the time.
Yeah.
So
And then puts Brian's 13s to the bottom.
Yes,
Yeah.
Joe cut my deck, and I played through half a deck and got no card above a 9.
Yeah.
At the end of that turn, when I picked up the cards I had drawn, because I had thrown them on the floor, I looked at the remaining cards, and the bottom 4 cards were the 13. You'd cut it in exactly the right place, because you cut it quite thin on the top.
I did, yeah.
So you cut it and just took all the good cards off and put them on the bottom.
But yes, so my little swarm of, Zerglings, to use an outdated zeitgeist, I'm sure.
It's not that outdated. StarCraft's still pretty popular.
Good. I still play the first one.
Outdated Zeitgeist was my name on bulletin board messaging services in the mid-90s.
Case in point. So yeah, my tots don't do a lot.
I don't know, they die quite well.
Yeah, they die very well, but they're too short to be any sort of human shield for the two effective models I had in round 1, namely Barbaros and the Doppelganger.
Yeah,
That's true.
And we've talked about effective use of cover, but one of the things you can do is use your own models as cover. And I saw Aaron do something really good with that, where he had a model that can shoot through things.
Yes.
Who was engaged by one of Joe's models. And you slid another model directly between the two, breaking his line of sight and allowing it to attack, almost killing his boss. Actually.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Rob doesn't have that luxury with most of his models because his Terratots are the size of tots, and you're not going to hide a normal-sized person behind a toddler. No.
Having too much... Well, having homogeny hasn't worked well for me. The numbers hasn't worked well because I've got lots of little things that can't really hit what everyone else has got. That said, round 2's begun. I'm starting to build up. I've got a young Nephilim in there to start my damage dealing early, and in my game today has allowed me to finally use that upgrade I bought right at the start and grow another Nephilim.
You did, yes, you finally managed to grow a Nephilim against me.
And I was then able to use those to block Sebastian's line of effect
Yeah.
more than once.
Yes.
Echoing the Torikage bit. What I need to do, looking forward, is I'm going to need to diversify more. I've stuck with the Nephilim, which is handy, but they're also very melee focused. I like the sub-faction and staying true to that because then it gives you other interesting things to do with other crews.
Yeah.
Yes.
But for the purposes of this campaign and better performance, I need to look... Well, I need to bring in perhaps a Silurid, a Woldgeist or two, something to change up. Ranged attacks would be lovely.
Pro tip: buy a Gatling gun.
Yeah, Colin's managed to bolster his with some of the equipment that you can find. You've got a Gatling gun.
We've both got Gatling guns.
You've got
now.
a Gatling gun, Joe, but you didn't need a Gatling gun. You probably could.
Hang on, I had one model that didn't have a range attack, so I bought him one.
Well,
Boo-hoo to that.
And to be fair, it has paid off for me so well. It's out of all of the range damage that I'm kicking out, I think the Gatling gun's probably up there with what's doing well.
Yeah.
So
I got to use a Gatling gun today because I nabbed Sebastian's with my doppelganger.
Yes.
Just long enough to shoot the nurse who decided it hurt so much she'd move into melee with me.
I did that against Aaron as well.
So-
I need a hug.
Owning the books
You
is
did,
not
yeah.
always the answer because everyone else's books tend to live here. I've got my own copy of the main rule book. I've read it through a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I don't memorise the rules that much.
There's
And
too
I
many.
can't bring myself to. I'd much rather discover it in play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's shooting me in the foot, but I still enjoy it. I don't want to be sitting there going, oh, he's got this, he's got that, it's going to do this, it's going to do this, and then she'll move over and jump me. It's more a case of, well, I can try this. Ooh! Sudden surprise, how am I going to think on my feet? I don't think on my feet particularly well, which is why I'm losing. But hey, I'm still having fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the thing.
And that's what it's all about.
And you'll all be so embarrassed when I wipe the floor with you in round 10.
This is the problem we've got, because Rob has lost every game now. The first person that loses to Rob,
Yes.
that's going to be that's in a level of embarrassment I don't think any of us will be able to recover from.
It's almost on the level of losing to Colin.
Yeah. Which two people have done.
Ever since Colin switched and betrayed the Neverborn and went over to the Resurrectionists, he has done an awful lot better.
Yeah,
They
he
soak
did
up
things.
so much damage.
They do. They're upsetting in that.
Yes.
In that way. Yeah. So you're still enjoying it, even though you're probably having the toughest time out of any of us.
Yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm looking, what do I do next? What else do I need to bring in? How can I build on it? And let's face it, the only way from here is upwards.
We do have.
Or level mediocrity.
We do have a moment just for our first Malifaux obituary. I think we should just take a moment just to honour the dead, as Rob suffered the first annihilated model,
Yeah.
proper casualty. What happened, Rob? Tell us about that young Terratot with his whole demonic life ahead of him.
Oh, poor little Cos. I don't think he ever had much of a life ahead of him. I tend to think of him as the Nephilim Colin.
Quite ironic, considering I killed him in the end.
Yeah, exactly. It was all self-hatred.
Yeah, you will end up causing your own downfall, not deliberately.
Just
Not
by existing.
Yeah, not in a sad movie that wins an Oscar kind of way, but just in a
good,
hilarious
because
Chuckle Brothers fell down the stairs kind of way.
Excellent. That's what I want.
Yeah, of course, started out poorly, taking a few knocks in fact, my very first game, receiving an injury because the cards were against him, and becoming foolhardy. Somehow, being beaten to a small pulp made him think he would be fine.
Because he survived.
Having to write foolhardy on the little sleeve in which I keep the card, of course, made me play to character. So he was the first model to activate. I always ran him out in front to block the other tots if they needed to dash through cover.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like fun. And he did quite well in his second game, backed up by the doppelganger. Game 3, he got knocked on the head. His reflexes slowed, so his defence dropped, which just meant he was even easier to hit. And minions can only take 2 injuries before they're killed.
Yeah.
And while I desperately did everything I could to get down to the red joker that I'm sure is somewhere in the deck that might have kept him alive one more game, it was not to be.
It was not.
He went through a succession of a curse, a swamp hex, as I cheated in with my fate hand to get a redraw, only to get a blood hex. So yeah, curse after curse after curse, and he is no more.
Did you take him to get leeched? Some medieval
No, I took the other 2 to the doctor.
Try 2 samples of swamp water, followed by 3 leeches to the neck. Go
By the way,
dead. Oh.
Speaking over to the cut wife a little bit late and just going, this one's faulty, can we get rid of it?
Speaking of the medical professionals, do watch out in Malifaux. I had a Nephilim with an amputated leg. Found a doctor who was quite happy to sew that back on. Took my leader, Barbaros, to get his head wound checked out. And apparently the solution was to bash him over the head harder, pull out the mushy remains of brain, embalm him, and now my leader is running around undead.
Did you mistakenly take him to McMorning to get fixed?
Yes, I think
I'll
I
go
did.
to this other faction's doctor. Oh, wait.
No, he was the only doctor I could find. It's not like a guy with horns and wings and a great big sword can walk down Main Street.
That's
So I went to the back alley doctor.
See, this
Thought
is...
I'd really lucked out when I got the guild's own mortician.
Yeah, see, this is where you
if I'd
should...
seen Sebastian in the corner, I'd have known better.
Yeah, this is where your demons need to learn English, because mortician is not the same. They have slightly different roles. You would not want one to overlook your illness.
He probably will overlook your illness. I think that was the problem.
Well, yeah, that's true.
If Barbaros gets a cold in the next injury, I'll be pissed.
Yeah.
That said, I did nearly run Tara and her undead faction, so at least I've got a bit of death.
Yeah, that's true. But nobody's allowed undead but me.
Meanwhile, story-wise, while I was looking to go towards Lilith as my master, mistress, faction leader, in terms of the storyline, she's very much against the undead. So I think it's time I looked elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually, reading into some of the background of Malifaux, there was actually, when Malifaux was first recolonised after it sort of appeared and disappeared in the background, a cabal of evil necromancers rose up and attempted to basically kill everyone and form an undead empire in this other part of the reality. And the Neverborn were found fighting side by side with the human inhabitants, because the Neverborn find the undead especially abhorrent. So, and Lilith was part of that.
Now that is just
background.
racism.
Sad for you, little undead stinking man.
And yet his leader is now undead. So who's really winning here, people?
I'm going to think of you as Colin the Undead Chihuahua. I have been continuing to take Hannah, the steampunk librarian, in her giant suit of armour.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a suit of armour, it's a giant mech that she's strapped erroneously to the front of. I have taken her out into Malifaux on her quest for knowledge.
Yeah.
She has learnt that the undead die really, really slowly again.
Yeah.
The game I had with Colin, barely anything died, bar the couple models I needed to kill in order to win.
Yeah.
We it was quite a tactical game. I then went and found some tiny Nephilim running around and stomped on all over them. Sorry, Rob.
Complete wipeout, that game.
Yes. I found that Hannah actually, for a woman with a giant mech suit, is actually quite brittle.
Yeah.
So I have...
You say that until you've got with your setup, which I'm sure you're going to mention, but I mentioned it first because it fucking annoyed me.
Yes, as I mentioned right back in the first podcast, which if you'd have listened to in advance, Colin, you'd have been able to suss out my tactics before we played. I have been using the librarian to heal her quite successfully, but I feel almost at the expense of the librarian doing anything else sometimes, and it's a little bit annoying. So I've actually, when I've had the opportunity, I've bought her some armour plating to go round the front in my mind, in order to sort of keep her alive. And she has gained a skill similar to one Joe mentioned earlier that makes her hard to wound.
Well, have you got hard to wound as well?
Yeah.
See,
so
everyone's copying the undead stuff.
Yes, she's she's become a bit tougher. Didn't help her because I didn't realise, and this is the mistake I made against Joe, I didn't realise that Joss ignored armour and hard to wound, meaning I ran directly towards the one model in his army that could really get me. He wouldn't have been able to chop my head off with Howard because she has a field that stopped built-in suits, so he needs to have 2 suits in his dual total.
Yes.
One of which is built in, the other one he either pays for or flips. But I got greedy because I was attempting to take a bounty and he was sat next to the model I'd marked for death for my bounty, and so I moved in there rather than what I should have done, which was my initial thing. I was trying to fake forwards and then I was going to run off and beat the living daylights out of Howard. And then I went, actually no, because I can hit the model that I wanted to kill and splash the blast damage, because her fists do lots of blast damage, onto his leader, and it didn't work. So I made a bit of it. I was overly aggressive, I think. Hannah does suffer for having a lack of ranged attacks.
Yeah.
I can borrow...
You don't know lack of ranged attacks until you field Nephilim.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Or undead until they buy Gatling guns.
Yeah.
Your syringes have got a longer range than anything barring my doppelganger.
That's a good point. Taking meds is a very funny thing to do.
But yeah, it was still a close game. And even though, that happened turn 3?
3 or 4, I think.
And we went to turn 6.
Yes.
And even though I lost that, I still almost won because the aggression did net me some victory points.
Yeah, our first non-campaign game, I don't know if it was our first, but it was the other way round. You held back a bit more and I pushed up early, and that did that.
So I decided to do the opposite, to try and throw you slightly, and instead I just threw her under the bus.
Well, you also expected me to come to you because of the
you
schemes
took
I
breakthrough, and instead you just had fast things that could do it later in the game, which I didn't realise. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's been quite interesting, and I have, because I completed my bounty, now have an ability that I can inflict injuries on people, which is going to be really, really nasty. They don't hang over, but some of the injuries are really, really quite horrible.
You've also got access, not that we can get it till week 5, but you've now got your bounties ready to buy a master.
Yes, you need a...
When that comes into the game, is going to be...
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't have a master, it's going to be very, very painful, very, very quickly.
Yes.
So far, it's only me and Brian that have completed bounties.
Yeah. Well, I think, just very quickly, my favourite story so far, because we talked a little bit about how it's gone and such like, my favourite story so far is the story of the dashing Freikorpsman Adolf, who... was actually, he was a bit of a hero against Rob. He went toe-to-toe with a doppelganger that looked just like him, and managed to succeed.
Or you think so?
Yeah, maybe.
Two men
he
entered, one left and went, yeah, I'm Adolf.
Yes. He then, unfortunately, I took a few injuries against Joe, and Adolf came out of it initially feeling not quite right. Which I cheated. Not quite right. It's actually quite a severe penalty in the game. So he became unfocused, which I don't like. I like military precision in my Freikorpsman.
Has he been puffing too much of the petrol fumes for the flame tanks?
I think he's developing an anger problem. I took him to the doctors, who, unfortunately, he didn't survive. But fortunately, the doctor was a resurrectionist, so brought him back to life, didn't tell us. So now, in my mind, Adolf has become undead. Inside his Freikorps suit, which covers him completely, is naught but rotting flesh. Nobody knows. So he's got a little secret, has Adolf.
Yeah.
People really need to stop seeing these undead doctors.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah, I quite enjoyed the little story of him. So, what's worse than an angry man called Adolf is an angry man called Adolf that cannot die.
Yeah.
Because he already has.
Yeah. Any good stories? Because we talked a lot about story in the first thing. We were looking forward to the stories.
Did we actually do any stories, Aaron, or did we just go flip some cards and things have died? Yay!
Well, mostly, but most of my guys just kind of did stuff. Interesting stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, Raphael managed to actually teach the rest of Toro Kage how to actually do their job. And
That
move
is
around quickly.
That is true.
And gave them some nice little explodey device. You put these on the floor, they make you go disappeary, and then you can go over there. Well done.
Yay!
Treat them like children. And Yoko decided to randomly wander in on my second game after having an adventure somewhere else.
Luring someone else away.
Yeah.
And then by being lured away herself.
Yeah, exactly.
Strange.
And then casually wandering into the game halfway through with Rob and going, "Oh, come here, doppelganger, I want you." Confusing it, so my archer shot him to bits. Yeah.
From the other side of the table, I have to say it looks like you're playing very much to character.
Yeah.
While we tease you for it, you've done hit and run. You've retreated more than anyone else.
Yes, very true. I have run
That
away.
said, you've done far better than I have. It's in there, in the story of Misaki
Yes. Yeah.
and her assassins. They dive out of the shadows, they dive back in. It's hit and run, guerrilla warfare. And you're playing that side of it very nicely.
I am glad you are starting to learn of the merits of running away, Aaron. It's about time. It's a very useful tactic.
I did see how well it works for you.
It does.
You seem to have inspired my troop. Yes, well done.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd try it myself, I'm just too bloody stubborn.
Which, they're never born. They're never going to let go of their land.
I've got Barbaros. He's been brutalised by the humans in the fighting pits, and I just want to tear all of them apart.
Yeah.
Even if they are already stitched together.
Now that is racist.
It seems that, a lot of the stories come from things being injured and surviving and all of this great stuff happening, and there's not a kind of non-bragging way to go, my stuff isn't getting hurt.
Oh, wow.
I know, woe is me. Overall, I feel that a story might occur if something actually gets murdered.
Cool. I wish I could have obliged.
So the onus is on you guys to
Destroy
give
your
me
army.
story. Yeah.
Sure.
And there's why I don't mind the suffering my guys are going through, because it does make more of a story.
Yeah. I like to think that the Oxford mage that I set out to murder at the start of the game probably annoyed Hannah in some way. Probably had a load of overdue library books that they took out of her library and didn't bring back, and escaped to Malifaux in order to not give them back.
Yeah.
I believe he does actually have a book with him.
She went down doing what she loved best, restoring order to the shelves.
Is that why you've got Flammenwerfers? Like, that book's off the shelf. Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, she doesn't get on with the Flammenwerfer, I don't think.
Book burning isn't really her thing.
I did. That's the extra model I bought. Actually, I didn't mention was Reinhardt, the specialist. Who has a Flammenwerfer. If you don't know what a Flammenwerfer is, it werfs Flammen.
A fearsome ability in any game.
It actually genuinely is. He also explodes if you kill him, setting you on fire.
Which very nearly cost Joss his life if he had actually managed to kill him.
Yes, yeah. And I was making a fake thing of going, oh, shall I cheat? No, I'll let you have that, and hoping that you'd kill him, and then you didn't.
No.
No.
It's very hard to go, I have a story for Jeff, the dead nurse with no brain.
Sebastian had a fairly epic encounter during your last game.
Did he?
He was holding off Rob's army on his own.
Yes. Sebastian went from, in the first game, being beaten to a very small and bloody pulp by Brian. Luckily without injury, because, hunchbacks are hard. Since the first week has got a additional hard to wound, so he's now hard to wound +2 when flipping damage against him, which I haven't had to use because nobody's tried to hit him since for some bizarre reason.
Pointless, that's why.
Nobody's tried to hit him, just because my Terratots can't.
Well, there is that.
He's missed him.
The second game I've had, he pretty much did what he always does, which is stand there and make things die just by being around him. But the last game against the Neverborn was quite entertaining, where for some reason, I don't know why, I thought it'd be a brilliant idea to take my 13 wound toughest character I've got and send it to the other side of the board by itself. Great distraction, it was what I was trying to do, but not with the really hard thing that's also really slow and takes a while to get back. Leaving Sebastian and a nurse to hold the entire right flank from all of the pissed off demons.
Yeah.
Colin then drew me out beautifully with the explosives stratagem.
Yeah.
Desperately trying to drop a scheme marker right on the centre line, as one would for a line in the sand. So I thought nothing of it. I even dropped one of my own as a similar decoy to make him think that's what I've taken.
Yeah.
As I so often do with the Nephilim when I've got Lilith and her cherub about. And then his scheme marker blew up in my face and scored maximum points on turn 2.
Yeah, what I'm starting to notice, some of the things we talked... one of the things we talked about Malifaux was how there's quite a lot of bluffing and that sort of thing with your control hand. The cards that you've got to influence fate and change things and such, like going, ooh... yeah, when actually you've got a load of rubbish, because then you're thinking the opponent might not think that they've got much of a chance of getting things through, vice versa. Trying to keep things very closely. I mean, I remember playing a game when I was playing against Colin. I could have killed Sebastian as long as I didn't flip the Black Joker.
Yeah.
And I had the Black Joker in my hand.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be too casual, so I still played as if, ooh, it might come up. Ooh, come on, no, I don't want to flip it. And just really played because I didn't want you to know I had that in my hand for later on. Yeah. So there's bluffing going on there. But what we're starting to do as well is, because we're starting to get to know the strict schemes, the strategies, etc. As we're starting to use those to bluff. You've got a choice of 5 schemes. You're only going to take 2, but you can make it look like you've taken other ones. You can make like
I was trying to do. That's why I sent I remember now why I sent the corpse construct over there, because I was going to get him to put a scheme marker down and make you think I was doing line in the sand.
You talked about doing that.
Yeah, I remember that. See, there is method to my madness, even if I do forget them, man.
Exactly. By the next turn, you'd forgotten it, and you went charging off after the terror shot. But was paralysed and wasn't going anywhere for at least another turn. That's when you went, hang on, you've not done that.
Yeah.
But by that time, my relevant characters over the far side were in combat and couldn't do anything about your bomb.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by Sebastian, actually. I'm going to give him more credit, because he did take almost at one point 4 melee characters all around him, and he did just go, yeah, all right. Don't worry, lads, I've got a half-injured nurse with me. I'll survive this. And did.
2 of his foes were paralysed at any one time.
Yes. Because of drugs. Because I said, take your meds. What did you do?
I took my meds.
Good boy.
Meanwhile, Sebastian decides to have a quick stroll round, punch the nurse in the face after all that damage I've done. Thereby, the resurrection is killing half of their own losses.
Yeah.
Just to get Bête Noire back out, because you had bodyguard on her and had nearly forgotten as my black blood dissolved to nothingness.
Yes.
Excellent. Right. Well, I thought the last thing that we could do for each of these, now that we've played more games and we're starting to get more of a hang of what we're doing, is to share a tip, a tactic, something that we've learnt about our crew or the models we're using or the game system itself that will be maybe useful for the people listening at home. On the bus, on the train, upside down in a hedge, wherever it is that you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Aaron.
10 Funders as a faction have mercenaries from each of the other factions, so if you're a little unsure, they could be a nice way of testing all the different factions' kind of abilities and things. But they are, for the most part anyway, very heavy on particularly the ones I've got here, Misaki and stuff like that, movement. It's all about me and move away and stuff like that. The models look very hard. The Torikagis have got massively high defence, they've got quite decent wounds, and strong, fairly decent willpower, but they're not really built for charging in and attacking in combat. What you want them to do is hit, run, as Rob said before. It's jump in, do stuff, run away. It rewards a lot of, because I haven't been using this enough, a lot of gathering and breaking the formations.
Yeah.
Manoeuvring them in and out of each other and around the other models.
Yeah. Does that influence your choice of scheme?
Very much so. When I first started, I was leaning very much towards murdering things, because obviously playing these kind of skirmish games, murder things works well.
Yeah.
I'm now going, no, scheme markers. What can I do best with scheme markers? Are these two going to be near each other? Yeah, I'll do that. And dropping things all over the place. Or using that to confuse people to think I'm doing something else.
Yeah, the explosive trick that you used on Joe, for instance.
Yes, I made it look like I was doing centre line, so I was hoping he would just go, I need to get rid of some of these.
Yeah, Joe's eyebrows nearly disappeared up into his hair when he did that. He's like, ooh!
Yeah.
Excellent. So 10 Thunders taking... utilising their movement.
Yes.
Maybe taking things that require movement and scheme markers rather than try to brute force your way through things.
Yes.
Yeah, carrying on from what Aaron said, I think that learning what you're good at is a very important skill. I also think that knowing what your opponent is capable of is a very, very good tip for anyone to take up. For instance, the game with Aaron, he's gone, okay, I'm really good at moving around and dodging about and getting in and out. I've identified that actually that's kind of Aaron's thing. So in our game, I went, I could take this or this or this, which are scheme markers, and I thought, no, I'm going to keep that dude alive and I'm going to murder that one. Because it's not really so much the Arcanist thing, but it much more so than it is 10 Thunders.
So you were able to sort of judge what you're doing based on what they've got or what they're like.
Yeah, Aaron's going to play more of the scheme game and try and be a bit more mobile. So I'm going to be better suited to pushing and making my presence known in the middle of the board and trying to get what I want done from there. Also, I felt that I would be outmanoeuvred because I've got the smallest model count still. So branching out into doing lots of different things would be difficult against being outnumbered against faster opponents.
Yeah.
My tip would be to at least have a vague idea of what your enemy is going to be trying to achieve, or what they're capable of, and trying to find your own way of dealing with that.
Yeah. So being, as Aaron said, know your own strengths, which
also,
is what he's done.
Know your enemy.
Yeah.
My advice, I would say, is variety.
Yeah.
I've taken lots of similar models. I have 2 packs of Terratots. I don't really need to field more than 3 unless we're playing much larger games like we used to before we started the campaign.
Yeah, sort of 50 Soulstones, you might want 4, maybe 5, because they're quite cheap.
Here in small forces, I've got too many duplicates.
Yeah.
That, I think, is one of my weaknesses here.
Yeah.
But look for synergies. Groups like the Oxford Mages are designed to work in a trio.
Yes.
Statistically, they're identical, but they have little quirks and differences between them.
Because they have upgrades.
They have zero cost upgrades that each give them a different boost themselves, and also provide a boost to someone that's taken the warding runes as well. So you add quite a lot of synergy into a 4, well, possibly 5 or 6 model group.
Looking at Hannah, just to add to your point, looking at Hannah, she can borrow casting actions from other models. I only have one other model that has a casting action at this moment in time. Therefore, she synergises really well with that one model, but not with anybody else. So I'll be looking next time to add in a model with another casting action.
Yeah. It's very similar to what Brian was saying. When you're building, try and look long term. I built my original list around my henchman, who I've built around taking my master, and everything I add will just go on to that. So I have it could be a downfall if people start taking stuff to ignore poison, get around poison, going, his army's fairly slow, I'll just ignore him and take fast stuff. But as long as you plan for that it's not too much of a problem. I immediately made sure I had models that take away immunity to poison to screw everybody over, because that'll be fun when it happens.
Yeah.
Which, at the moment, it's a worthless model. The carrion effigy is not been useful in any game so far, but it's there ready for the first time somebody goes, haha, I've got an immunity to poison. No, you haven't. Not anymore now.
My tip is kind of a dual tip, because I'm going to sing the praises of an individual model and then explain why I think it's so good. I love my librarian. I don't mean Hannah, chief of librarian. You can hear from Colin's reaction his disgust at the librarian.
Do you know, I'm more annoyed at myself that I went, haha, I've just beaten his leader to a pulp. Oh, his librarian has just helped heal his leader. My only solution here, then, is to carry on beating his leader. But now he's healed her again.
I must punch her some more.
I will punch the leader more. I will put all my models into... Why?
Yeah.
Why? Eventually, I got the cow. But I should have got her 3 turns previous to that.
Trust me when I say the nameless librarian will surprise you. She's supposed to be a caster.
Yes.
I've tried taking her out in combat. I've tried taking her out with spells. It simply doesn't work.
Yes.
I think I got by paralysing her, poisoning her, and then just walking away and going, die.
I have found that a Gatling gun works quite nicely against her.
Yes, yeah, shooting. She did get shot. It's the first time she's really been exposed because Hannah got squashed. The librarian is a great piece because, she can hold her own in a fight. She's got 10-inch range, and she can dish out some damage and some blasts, and she can use the same ability in combat, short range. She can't charge, but if someone gets close to her and she survives, she's got all the cool gubbins of being in the Freikorps, so she's immune to blast damage and pulse damage, which a lot of things have pulse damage.
My poor Black Blood.
Yes, Rob's Black Blood. I'm kind of set up ideally to take out Rob, which is really horrible and mean of me, but there you go.
We did start playing this together, so it's not surprising.
But she has access to healing, and especially in a game where injuries will carry over, healing is becoming more and more important. Joe's added healing. Colin has lots of stuff that can heal and regenerate and such like. I think maybe, Rob, do you feel you need some healing?
It would be lovely, but my current healing options, as far as I can see, are Candy or the Dreamer.
The librarian, though, she can heal up to 3 times in a turn as long as your leader is an outcast. If your leader isn't an outcast, she can only do it once. But she is available to be hired for every single crew. She costs me 7 soul stones. She'll cost other factions 8.
Yeah.
So there are just some tips for something hopefully that you can take away from the podcast, apart from the fact that we like the sound of our own voices. If you have any tips for us, if there's any Malifaux players out there that are playing Nephilim,
yes, please.
Rob would love to hear your tips. Don't give any tips to Joe for the Arcanist. He doesn't need them.
Thank you.
The most backhanded of compliments.
Yes.
But yeah, if you've got anything that you'd like to add, or if you try out our tips and find that we are fonts of gaming wisdom or fonts of pure bullshit, then please let us know. And if you've got any sort of suggestions for what you think that we could add, or how we can get around maybe some of the limitations of what we mentioned to do with like the plants and things like that, please leave a comment. You can also like on whichever platform you find us on. You can subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also find the podcast on SoundCloud, where it's available for download, so you can listen on the go.
Yeah.
If you're listening on SoundCloud, you can also find us on YouTube, where we do all sorts of gaming videos and other fun, mostly humorous things.
Yeah, mostly.
And Colin runs away a lot.
I do. Sometimes you just need to run away.
While chastising me for my dislike of jam.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening. We have been the Critical Twits with our special guests Joe and Rob.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. We will continue playing our games of Malifaux, hopefully getting a bit better as we go. And we will be back with this next month, but we'll also be back with a new podcast every single Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for listening. We've been the Critical Twits. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.
Colin, sing the theme tune.
Completely fucking forgotten it.
It's close enough. It's just a series of high-pitched beeps.
It is
Much
just
like when
beeps.
you talk.